system up, let the whole town see. No mask on my face, no fear in my lane. I'ma shine that light on the ones bringing shame. From the courtrooms down to the city blocks, they can't hide from the truth, cause the truth don't stop. Turtle boys riding in the reckoning gon' come. Lally in the back room, Morrissey on the phone, trying to twist the narrative, but they can't postpone. I'm just sipping on the facts while the city play pretend. True, got no curfew, I'ma run it to the end. See, this ain't about fame, this about that long game.
They call me Dr. Turtleboy.
It's my preferred pronoun.
Daddy.
What's up, Daddy?
A. Timothy Carney.
The one and only Turtleboy.
What's up, Slick? The doctor is here.
This guy's a bad motherfucker.
That's right, the intro.
I've broken a lot of major stories. I've been doing it for about 11 years. I used to be a high school teacher.
Turtleboy has changed a lot over the years. I was once a blogger, but now I'm much more active. Boom!
They're screaming your name here.
You're the crowd daddy.
Crazy. People either love me or hate me.
Listen, Turtle, all right?
But either way, they're watching.
Don't make such fun of the criminal justice system.
Stop it. I'm never gonna stop. This fight's just getting started. Now let's get this party started.
What's up, people? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the we're here, folks. It's fucking hot out too. It's nice day out. Welcome if you're new here. My name's Aiden Carney. I'm an award-winning journalist who's being persecuted by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts because I advocated for an innocent woman by the name of Karen Reed, who was being framed for murder of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, for a crime she didn't commit. And I contend that he was murdered inside 34 Fairview Road, belonging to the Boston police officer by the name of Brian Albert. And I believe that he was killed inside there by some sort of combination of him, Brian Higgins, the dog, and Colin Albert. That's what I believe. Okay, and I've been pretty vocal about these beliefs. And I believe that Jennifer McCabe played a pretty big part in covering up that murder and murdering him as well. I do believe that they were all involved in that. I've said it a million times before. Bad audio? Is it echoey? My sound is potato? Hold on. Am I too far away from the mic? Is that the problem? Hold on.
Is this better? Okay, hopefully that's better. We're good now? Audio is fine? Okay, good. I'll be right back. I got to put food in the crock pot because it's like 3 o'clock. It'll take 3 hours in a slow cooker. So quick crock pot break, and then I'm going to bring on my next guest. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. All right, so as you guys can see, Give, Send, Go is pinned to the bottom. We're about to start our 4th hour. We have raised so far over $17,000. So that's great. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you guys have given. But now it's time for our big guests here. So with us now, the esteemed attorneys, Melanie Little, queen of the internet, and David Yannetti, king of the courtroom. So let's bring them on now to join us. Hello.
Hello.
What's going on? Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Hi, David.
Hey, guys.
It's a long time. Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah. So anyway, appreciate you guys coming on here. I'm sure you're busy and everything. But I'm not sure if you've caught any of this and all. I showed the Tully body cam video for the first time. I still can't believe when he showed up in my driveway. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, here I am accusing this guy of being involved in the cover-up of a murder, and he's at my house arresting me. Like, you have to be kidding for doing that. Like, that's just crazy.
That's exactly why he was at your house. But the fact that he was at your kid's bus stop, I think, should shock everybody even more than that. And the fact that they plan to arrest you at your kid's bus stop is just horrific. I mean, that could happen to anybody. Did your kids see what happened? Were they watching from the bus?
No, because they're younger, so they sit in the front of the bus at that age. If she was in the 5th grade, she probably would have sat in the back and probably would have seen it, because that's where she sits now, because she's a cool 5th grader. But back then, she was an uncool 3rd grader, so I think they missed it. But I think kids have told them, and they're at the age where they can like Google it and see this stuff now. But that morning, it's just like, you could have just sent me a summons. And it was like that with Karen, wasn't it, David? Like
That's exactly right. Exactly right. For somebody with no criminal record who's represented by counsel, to the prosecutor to say, look, I'll surrender him or her at any place or time that you tell me, and then for them to go behind your back and try and arrest for the pomp and circumstance of it and the perp walk, it's just a sign of something larger that's wrong in these cases, in my view.
Yeah. And they twist everything. That my whole case is them just twisting my words. And you know a thing or two about that, David, because one thing that they always bring up with you is that right after Karen Reed was arraigned or whatever, you were interviewed on the courthouse steps and you said that my client had no criminal intent. What did you mean by that?
So, I mean, you can see my mind, the gears churning while I'm in court, trying to digest a only police report that they had given us. You have to understand, there was like zero discovery available, and they withheld it from us for so long. But, I'm shocked at that point that they have charged Karen with manslaughter. My view of this and my expectation coming into that courtroom was this was a motor vehicle homicide allegation. That was really the first sign that I got that something's up here. So, in my argument to the judge, I said, look, Judge, they've charged this as manslaughter. They're asking for $50,000 cash bail. But, where in this police report does it show any criminal intent to justify a manslaughter charge? So, I was speaking to their version of events, which is what you're stuck with at arraignment. And I was saying, even under their version of events, which we all know now was false, we didn't know what was going on then. Even under their version of events, it was an overcharge from the beginning. And then it was even more shocking when they went to the grand jury and upped it to second-degree murder. But just for the record, so that everybody knows this, at no point in time, ever, from the first moment I talked to her on the phone until now, has Karen Reed ever said that her car hit John O'Keefe. Never. That's what they want. Their narrative is, it's wrong. Not surprisingly.
Yeah, their narrative, the story that's been put out there by, I think, the Proctors or someone, is that when they went through Karen's phone, they came across a text message in which she tells her lawyer, who they assume is you at the time, that I did it, I accidentally hit him. But you didn't even know Karen by the time that she took her phone, right?
No, and this is symptomatic of just about everything that they've done. They've cut and pasted text messages. They've taken them out of context. They've tried to say that they're one thing when they say another. They lose credibility every time. And I think recently they've said, oh, geez, no, it wasn't Yannetti. It was some other attorney that she said that to after being Yannetti, you suck. So it's just par for the course.
Yeah.
To that point, also, the news had been reporting that there was ring footage of this incident of Karen hitting John with her car. It's still out there. We've played it 100 times. And I can't remember because we've watched the arraignment a number of times too. Was it February 1st or February 2nd?
February 2nd.
Yeah. And I don't remember if Lally said in court that there was ring footage of the accident also, but that was the original narrative that was put out to the public.
Yeah, I don't think he said it in the arraignment, but it definitely was put out there in a WBZ news report. It's funny because recently some video has surfaced of me. I don't remember talking. The trolls have brought this up. They found an audio of me saying that I go, obviously she hit him with the car. And I'm like, where did I say this? I'm like, where? I don't. And it turns out it's a 2022 YouTube show I did in which somebody asks me in the chat, are you going to cover this story? I go, yeah, it just doesn't seem like much of a story. It seems like a tragic accident. Like, obviously she hit him. I go, and my reason for believing that she obviously hit him, the ring camera. I actually cite the ring camera. It's been reported that there's ring camera. So that lie literally kept people like me from even looking into this, because like what's the story?
Right.
Right. Carrie, what's her name? Carrie Roberts says Sandra Bullock's gonna play her in the movie. What movie? About the girl who accidentally hit her boyfriend in a horrible tragic accident happened? What movie? And
by the way, I mean, what they released, obviously I had never seen that show that you did, but what they released was consistent with what you've always maintained, which is that you weren't interested in the case because it seemed like it was open and shut, and the media had reported essentially that it was, and that she did it, and let's move on. And that's just further evidence that you were telling the truth, that you originally thought X and then learned that it was actually Y.
Yes, precisely. And this is what they do. And let me see if I can pull up here something I wanted to bring up with you, David, because they like to smear. They got my whole phone, right? And they've gone through it and they've leaked it and it's out there. And they really are trying to push this narrative that the dastardly Karen Reed, along with her co-conspirators, her unnamed co-conspirators, Alan Jackson and David Yannetti, that the whole time you guys were you knew she did it. She knew she did it, but you just had to find some blogger out there who was willing to get paid to lie for her. And to be clear, do you remember when's the first time we spoke? Do you remember?
So if I can, and I don't want to take too much of Melanie's time because I want to hear Melanie speak during this segment. And by the way, just so we're clear here, Melanie Little within the Yannetti household is Queen Melanie. My sister, my mother have watched her religiously from the beginning. They love her. They're so excited that I get to share the stage with her today. Aww. And I just got a text message from my paralegal, FKR all the way. And she, on a Sunday, she sent me a text message reminding me that I had Turtleboy at 3. And also and also telling me, please pass along her best wishes to Aiden and Melanie. She loves you both. There have been plenty of times, Melanie, I've come back to the office and she's listening to you, through her computer. So anyway,
thank you.
What was the question?
I don't remember. Oh, the first time we spoke.
Oh yeah, your text messages between each other.
Right. So here's the deal. I've said this publicly before, but in bits and pieces, not like widely reported. But the very first time we spoke, Aiden, was after you wrote your first article on the case. And prior to that, I had never watched your show. I knew who you were only because years prior, I had a client who was accused of doing some unsavory things. And you picked up the case and thoroughly spanked him. And so
sounds about right.
Yeah,
as he does.
And my impression of you was, this guy's trouble. I need to stay away from him. I'm representing a lot of people who might be accused of doing some dastardly things. So I want to keep a low profile. So anyway, you and I never met. We never talked. I'm sure you didn't know who I was. Once the first article came out, within a day or two, my thought was, well, finally we have somebody who's willing to tell this story. And I should introduce myself to him. And that was the purpose of my phone call to you. And just so you understand, the manslaughter charge, not allowing Karen to surrender, the manslaughter charge, and not getting any cooperation from them in terms of discovery in the early stages, pre-indictment, in addition to the discovery that was trickling in, led me to believe that this official story is not correct. And so from an early juncture, we were strategizing, how do we get the public's eye on this? There's a media out there that may be willing to assist us in this investigation. And by assist, I only mean getting to the truth. Our outlook from the beginning was, we just want the truth. I want to find out what is the real evidence in this case, and we'll live with whatever that is. I had told you, Aiden, off camera, I had some media contacts. I've been around for a long time, and I had some friends in the media, and I'm not going to name this reporter because I like him a lot. I remember giving him a call and suggesting that they look into this or that, they interview this person or that person, because there was this brick wall that we couldn't bust through. And I'll never forget what he said to me, which was, Dave, he said, this case is done. You couldn't get anybody to touch this case with a 10-foot pole. Wow. And that was the brick wall that we were running into before.
Was that before or after the Google search came out? Was that like before the Google search came out, probably?
It was before.
Okay.
It was before.
But still, you there was still plenty of stuff.
I had already seen stuff that my antenna were up, and I was convinced. I had an innocent client here, and I had the machinery of big government targeting her, and we needed help. So you were the cavalry that came in. And by the way, I didn't know how you were turned on to the case. I didn't know you. I certainly didn't call
until
you.
Until recently. Like,
exactly.
Because that's another thing that they've criticized you for, is that you've made statements saying that we weren't talking to him like we weren't beforehand. And now you know that Karen was not the person who reached out to me. It was another cop from Duxbury who used to work with John by the name of Brian Johnson. And I've got the timestamped screenshots to show he sent me the link, and I looked into it first.
Yeah, I mean, it all makes sense. I know I didn't call you, so or contact you. That was the reason for my tweet. But anyway, when you came in, that's when everything changed. That's when we had eyeballs on the case. We had a public putting pressure on a district attorney's office. It definitely changed the tide.
When Melanie first got into this game, I was in jail, and I started watching her in there. Actually, I watched her Garrett Wing interview. That's when I think things really started to really pick up, because prior to Melanie's involvement, there was no law tubers really covering this. And it was really just me. It was me and Plevin. That was it for Karen Reed content. And then the Glare and LTL and others got into it. But Melanie was really kind of the first YouTuber. And Melanie, what made you take such a big interest in the story?
Well, first, let's make the record clear here. There's nothing illegal, improper, or unethical about an attorney speaking to a reporter about their client's case. There's nothing wrong with that. That's done all the time. I have a person.
By the way, you wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't do that.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Who's not gonna? If the attorney wants to talk to me, why would I say no? I mean, what do I? No, I don't want to. I don't want any scoops.
Right. I'm curious why the mainstream media wouldn't report on it. I mean, I guess were there just powerful people involved and they didn't want to report on it, or are they just skewed a certain way?
Just laziness. All just reporters these days. No, there's the day of the spotlight at the Boston Globe is over. Like they don't go and look. They are just conditioned now to go down to the courthouse, get the records, copy and paste what the Commonwealth is saying. Here's the allegations. Nobody wants to actually look into a story anymore.
Yeah. It's crazy. So fun fact, I have a personal connection to Norfolk County because when I was in college in Boulder, I met a guy who was from, he said Foxborough, but because nobody ever heard of the small town that he was from. And it was in Norfolk County. And we were in college and he was telling me like how corrupt the police were where he grew up, and that they would stop him and his friends and just beat him up for no reason. And he had this like unhealthy, almost fear of law enforcement having grown up there. And then we got married. And then we had 2 kids together. And then the Karen Reed case happened. And we were divorced at this point, still, in contact, still had a great relationship because we were co-parenting our kids. But I said, holy crap, like this is in Norfolk County. These are the cops that I've been hearing about since, the late 80s, early 90s. And this is wild. It first came to my attention, I guess, from a viewer, but I remember hearing the story on the news and hearing there was ring footage of it. And just like everybody else was like, oh man, that sucks. Like she backed into her boyfriend. She was drunk, tragic story. He died in the snow. And then I just started reading everything that I could get my hands on. And tragically, he died. My ex-husband died like right after I started reporting on the story, like the next month. And so when everyone was attacking me and coming for me about, grifting and jumping on this grift train and like all this bullshit, I told the personal story about my personal connection to this county and how I really wanted to dig into this because having heard for decades about how corrupt the law enforcement was in this specific county, I really took an interest in it, and wow. You were in jail at the time. Between you and me and all of us now, everyone watching, there's almost 8,000 people watching here today. I wanted to keep you, Turtleboy, out of the conversation because I didn't watch your show. I didn't know about any of your reporting. And let's face it, there were a lot of people who just didn't like you and didn't want to believe what you had to say. And so I thought it would be a better track to not bring you into the conversation until these 2 stories became inextricably intertwined so that a new audience would hear about the story, right? And I think that it brought a lot of new eyeballs to the case.
Legitimacy because you're an attorney. You know what I mean? That's what we needed. We needed an attorney to come out and be like, no. I'm a lawyer and I can see how wrong this is and here's my experience in the field to say that. And it's good that you didn't bring me into it because then they can't accuse you of being in the cult or a turtle rider or anything like that or be biased by that. No, these are just the facts. And like I said, the first time I watched you was when you had Garrett Wing on. I got sent the clips when I was in jail. Did you know Garrett before that?
No, you can thank Jennifer Coffendoffer for that, because I was on Court TV twice in January of 2020. I don't even know what year it was at this point. 2024 is right before the first trial. And I said, that is clearly a dog attack to this man's arm. Okay. I've been an injury lawyer for over 30 years. And this is not a pedestrian versus motor vehicle accident. There are no injuries to support that. You got to have bumper marks. You got to have some injuries below the neck, aside from what looks like a dog attack to the right arm. And she tried to make me look like a fool. Everyone thinks that, they're a doctor now. They know the injuries. And I'm like, so one of my moderators said, there's this guy on YouTube. His name is Garrett Wing. He has like 2 million subs, and he talks. This is exactly what he does. He trains dogs to bite. He trains dogs like German Shepherds to go out and catch the perpetrators and drag them out. And he can tell you all about dog bites. I sent him a picture. I said, listen, I have this show. I don't even want to tell you what it's about. Here's just a picture of a guy's arm. What do you think this is? And he's like, clearly dog bites.
I
And
thought
so
you
he
knew
came
him.
on.
I didn't know
No.
you didn't know him. You just just on a whim.
That was a cold call.
And David, he was on your witness list for the second trial. Mm-hmm. Can I ask why you guys didn't call him?
That's an internal decision. You can probably infer, because we already had a dog bite expert, and I thought Dr. Russell was just fantastic and unassailable.
Unimpeachable.
I mean, she was grilled more than any witness in the entire case, both pre-trial, twice before both trials, and at trial. And you could not shake her off of what was an expert opinion, but it was consistent with what anybody would think when they look at those injuries. When I first saw those injuries, I was like, we're going to win this case. It's over.
It's over. That's what did it for me.
Took a long time, but
that's what did it for Alan. A lot of people cite the dog bites as there's no explaining those.
Explaining it.
And I didn't even know what their theory was going to be until we got to trial and Joe Paul. Because for a while there, the McAlbert Mafia was putting out this whole thing about like the undercarriage of the car and it aligned with, I'm like, you're going to say it. Okay. And then all of a sudden Joe Paul was like, no, it's from the tail light. He stuck his arm out. I'm like, what? You have to be kidding me. Oh my God. I can't believe they went with that.
Who would have thought that Joe Paul, is that his first name? Joe
Paul. Yeah. Joe Paul.
Joe Paul. Who would have thought that Trooper Paul would have been their best accident reconstructionist in the two trials?
I know. He convinced he convinced 9 and Judd Welcher convinced 0. So which is remarkable.
He was a lot cheaper too. So
yes, he was. Yeah. I think they felt bad for. I mean, he was more likable than people felt bad for Joe Paul. He was like up there. I didn't feel bad. I'm not one of them. I think he's a douchebag. But like some people felt bad because he was so outmatched by Allen, and it was just he was hapless. Yeah. And so, but whereas like Judd Welcher came across as like with Bob was just like cocky, like the faces he kept making, like, duh. You don't know that? What are you, an idiot?
Yeah.
Like, well, like he was just so he didn't even get mentioned in the closing.
Right. Yeah. And imagine that their star witness. You're right.
Not mentioned in the closing. So I want to bring up something here, David, from the recent lawsuit that I think we should talk about here that was filed against Karen and I. And because you're mentioned in it. And it says here, by early September 2023, Reed's team was concerned that the police were potentially going to charge Carney with witness harassment. If that were to happen, Reed's counsel, Yannetti, expressed concern to Carney that if that happens, that a judge prohibits you from having contact with witnesses. This prospect concerned Reed, Yannetti, and Jackson since they feared silencing Carney would impact the defendant's campaign against the plaintiffs. Indeed, on September 9th, 2023, Yannetti messaged Carney regarding the plaintiffs, stating, quote, "These bastards deserve all the scorn we are giving them. With Carney silence, the scorn Reed intended to incite might diminish." So regarding the plaintiffs being key word there. Now, I had my hands tied behind my back with this because I don't have my phone extraction. Everybody else has it except for me. So I can't even read what that message was. But recently you and I connected about this, and I was astonished to see what came before that. So I think with your permission, these are the
listen, pay attention, everyone.
Yes.
This is emblematic of exactly what the other side is doing with just about every text message.
Yeah,
I'll turn the floor over to you, Aiden.
So this is my message that precedes your message. Imagine a police officer is shot in cold blood, and the last vehicle seen where his body was found was a Ford Edge. There would be an all points bulletin looking for information on whoever was driving that car. They'd have a list of every person in Canton who owns one. They'd be pulling surveillance videos all over town looking for footage of a Ford Edge around the time. They'd find a plate and identify them within a day or two. Yet when 2 state police detectives found out this information, their immediate response was to pursue a wiretapping angle against someone called Turtleboy. It has been a month now. I wonder how much time they've invested in finding whoever was driving that Ford Edge. And you respond by saying, so true. These bastards deserve all the scorn we are giving them. So who are the bastards? Who are the bastards?
You guys answer that.
It's the MSP, not the House defendant.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Of course it is. I've never called the witnesses bastards or anything. And by the way, this is a private text message, not for public consumption. But it doesn't matter. From the beginning, your extractions on the internet, they can see the whole conversation between us. And if I could characterize that conversation, Aiden, it's 2 guys doing a different job, talking about how we can expose corruption. And it has to do with law enforcement and finding exculpatory evidence. And it's unbelievable, isn't it? I've been silent about it. I mean, I'm not going to go, tit for tat with these nitwits on the internet. Yeah, exactly, Melanie. This is, it just symbolizes what they're doing anytime they post a text message or an email. And this is just the tip of the spear. I'll tell you, you'll get a couple of scoops today from me, Aiden, hoping that, people will donate to your cause. But, it was a running joke within the team that anytime the Commonwealth filed a motion, you had to check the cases that they cited, because more often than not, they didn't stand for anything close to what they represented them to stand for. And there was an infamous footnote in one of the briefs that they wrote, cherry picking some of my text messages to you. And they just made it seem like here I am egging on witness intimidation, and we're in this conspiracy to harass witnesses, when I'm sure you probably have another text or 2 that you can show. But me thanking you, what was that for, Aiden? What was that thanking you for intimidating witnesses?
No, that was thanking me for getting the truth out there.
No.
Which one was this? Which one was this? Which thank you was this?
This was
did you send me these ones?
You've got it. You've got it.
Let me pull it up, because again, unfortunately, I'm the only person without access to my own phone.
Right.
The whole internet has it, but they gave me access. They gave me a phone that's only compatible with non-Macs.
If you can't find it, I'll just blurt it out. But see if
go ahead.
See if you have it.
Did you send it to me? I forget.
I can't remember if I gave it to you in person or if I sent it to you. I can't remember. But basically, you held a fundraiser, and it was for yourself. And you donated half of what you got at a certain day to Karen. And I saw that, and I said, "You're a class act. Thank you."
That's right.
And they have like cherry picked that to say, "Geez, you're a class act because you've been harassing witnesses or whatever." It's just, it's all nonsense. For whatever attorney put that quote in the motion in the civil case should be ashamed of himself. That's BBO material right there. He knew what we were talking about, and he made it sound like something else to a judge.
Yeah. And like I said, they have my phone extraction. They know that thing, the scorned bastards. They know who we're talking about because they've read our messages.
That's right.
They know we're talking about Michael Proctor and Yuri Biakinik because I said them by name in the text that preceded that. And I was saying how, and it just shows how I believe this too, that like, this is mind boggling. Like it's 2 guys talking about how much we believe this is a cover up and how outrageous we believe this is and how much I just can't believe that they're doing this. And you were like, these bastards like deserve all the scorn we're getting. God forbid the police get scorn. God forbid.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. And now they're publicly disparaging you, David, in court filings, which is pretty outrageous. As if you thought it couldn't get any worse with these people.
I've got pretty thick skin. I just laugh, but whatever they're accusing you of doing, they're doing themselves. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. And if they have us dead to rights, like, why not just tell the truth? Why not put the whole context in there? I'm not sure how familiar you are with my charges, David. Most of the things that I've said are completely taken out of context. And if you have the truth on your side, why do you need to do that?
It's a really good point.
I had the Radners on earlier, and we were talking about the grand jury process. Did you know that Karen Reed, did you know that grand jury was going on?
Well, I assumed, because manslaughter can't be prosecuted in district court. So yeah, I assumed and expected that there was a grand jury proceeding. At that point, I was like, all right, well, they're just going to indict her for the overcharge of manslaughter. And they're going to give me a call because she's made every court appearance and I've promised her cooperation. The last thing I expected was the upcharge. And, you know, they went and arrested her again. I mean, just to put on another show, to have another perp walk, to further harass her. Then I'm at arraignment in Superior Court, and I'm experiencing deja vu because I'm looking at the statement of the case. I'm like, where's the new evidence? Well, you know, when I hear murder too, I'm like, geez, they must have come up with something new.
Well, they had some new stuff. There was a trip to Aruba that the Sullivan.
Yeah, oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, those witnesses were really strong.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was nothing there. It was like reheated leftovers. With a bigger charge, and all they wanted to do was lock her up. Thank goodness that the judge didn't give them the $500,000 cash bail.
Just saying that was the one good thing Beverly Cannoni ever did, was set bail at only $100,000. Because Karen Reed did, I don't think she'd come up with 500 back then, at least. I mean, that would have been a struggle.
She would have been in custody for a while, and yes, that was one of the biggest decisions that Judge Cannoni made in the whole case, and it went in our favor.
Yeah. I mean, for one, God bless Beverly Cannoni for doing that.
One of the only right decisions she might have made in the entire trial. Have you ever?
I mean, I don't want to bash the judge. I mean, you know, there were. I mean, everybody has the transcripts now, and certainly we were frustrated with some of the decisions, but you know, there were decisions that went our way as well, and so, you know, I don't want to be on a Judge Cannoni bashing panel.
Have you ever experienced, I mean, this case was such a unicorn in so many ways. I say that all the time, but have you ever experienced the level of Daubert hearings in any other criminal case that you handled as you did in this one? I mean,
never. Yeah, never.
That was crazy.
I mean, thank God for Bob Alessi, right?
Yeah. Seriously.
The leading expert examiner in the country.
Unbelievable, that guy.
He was up to the task.
He took all the hard ones, like all the hard witnesses, the not fun stuff, the technical nerdy stuff.
Did.
He learned it all, and
never complained once. Never slept.
And tell us about that. Like, so you've known Bob for a while, and how did he come to get on the Reed defense team?
So, I mean, you know, Bob and I intersected on a district court case a few years ago. And I didn't know what to make of him at first. You know, Melanie, I'm sure you've had cases referred to you, or cases where a client comes to you, but somebody in the client's family is a lawyer. And, you know, right. And the very first thing you think is, well, this is going to be fun. I'm going to have somebody looking over my shoulder. He's going to be a pain in the neck. He probably doesn't know criminal law. He's going to be telling me my job. And against my better judgment, I took the case anyway. And, you know, so Bob participated in the defense, but in a very reserved way. You know, he was very respectful to me. I didn't know who he was. I just figured he like hung a shingle somewhere in Brooklyn or something. I didn't know that he was like the leading partner at one of the leading law firms in the world, whose hourly rate was like 5 times mine. I had no idea. But I gained respect for him because it became a collaborative process. And, you know, the trial went well. I almost felt like Bob was my co-counsel, and we became friends. And then during the first Karen Reed trial, there'd be times when we'd come back from court and I'd just give Bob a call and, run some ideas by him. He always had great ideas himself. And then after the first trial with the hung jury, mainly because we had 3 lawyers the first time around and we were still drinking from a fire hose. It was so much work. We were working 24/7 on the same case and still we were tapped. And, we needed help. We recognized that. So I approached Bob and, it's really a miracle that he got involved. He had to get, permission from his firm to do it pro bono.
Mm-hmm.
We brought him onto the team and he handled, in my view, the toughest parts of the trial. I mean,
what a sacrifice that was for all of you guys. You guys all were basically working for free, right? And those are billable hours that you could have spent representing other clients. I mean, I assume that this prevented you guys from taking on new clients, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate that I had a de facto partner that picked up the slack. Greg Johnson, I can't thank him enough. He just handled everything. He handled my work. He handled his work. But I was tied up for 4 months. So, my income took a big hit that year. But, when all is said and done, it's small potatoes. This was a once in a lifetime case.
It was.
I feel so good about the job that we did, the result that we got. When are you ever going to have that opportunity again?
Yeah, I mean, what was it like walking out of that courthouse on June 18th?
It was surreal. It really was. We walked out, and first of all, during the verdict, we heard everybody cheering outside, and it was a very emotional time. We're waiting to walk out, and I'm looking out, and it just looked like Fenway Park to me. It was like these people are all here for us, and they're cheering for us, and you get chills thinking about it. I'm very thankful that Damon Seligson, who's her Karen's lead counsel in the civil case, was with us that day, and Damon had the foresight,
right? Yeah, that was
to
him
take
filming
the video behind us. I loved it. It's a moment I'll never forget.
And you were on camera. I mean, people have watched the verdict so many times, and you're standing there, like, and your tears are coming out of your eyes. I mean, have you ever had a client like that you're so emotionally invested in?
It's happened to me one time before. It was another murder case. I think it's just a release from just putting everything you have into a case, and then to have it end with such a satisfying verdict. I was overcome by emotion for a brief period of time, such that Karen had to
how could you
comfort me and like pat my head.
We
all cried. We were all hysterical on TV. We were watching. We cried. Still cried thinking about it.
I was so lucky to get a front row seat. The 15 minutes leading up to the verdict, when no one was in the room except for you guys, the Karen's defense team, and the media. Hank Brennan wasn't in there yet. The jury, the judge, they weren't in there yet. And I have never seen Mr. Cool, Calm, and Collected Alan Jackson look so stressed as he was during that time. Like, it was being able to watch that. I remember him pacing around by himself. Yeah. He looked freaking nervous. Like, Karen was hugging everyone like it was the last time she was going to see them. Like, it was the most intense experience I've ever been a part of. I mean, what's that like as an attorney? I mean, is that the most stressful thing? Waiting for a verdict?
Doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt. That's the part of the profession that I hate. That is the most stressful time, because Melanie, as attorneys, we're control freaks. We like to prepare. We like to be in control. And once that jury goes out, you've lost all control. You can't say anything else. You want to be in that jury room to say, hey, look, what are you guys talking about? Because we can clear it up for you, but you can't do that. So, it's a very stressful time. I'd like to hear from you, Melanie, in terms of how you handled jury verdicts, because at the start of my career, particularly when I was a prosecutor, I would watch the jury from the moment they stepped back into the courtroom, and I'd try to see, did anybody make eye contact with me? Are they looking at the defendant? I wanted to glean the result. Now, I can't look at them at all. I just, and in fact, during the Reed verdict, both times, when they came into the room, all I did was look down and just brace myself for whatever it was going to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's a totally different animal. It's a totally different animal, because I never had anybody's life hanging in the balance. Civil litigation is something so different. So, they're just either going to come back with money or they're not. It's liability or no liability.
But
And
you're
so
invested in it, and it's still such a big deal. You've spent so much time, right?
totally.
I've seen Melanie's reaction to it on the stream. She was crying too. We
You never
all
know
were.
what a jury's going to do.
Yeah.
And I say that to my viewers all the time. Like, I would never bet money on a jury ever, because if they come back quickly, it may mean one thing, it may mean something else. You
Right.
never know what goes on in there, and you're not allowed to ask. So I would never put money on a jury. And especially in Karen's case, when they came back with a note, didn't they have the note of, oh, we have a verdict? And they're like, oh, no, we don't.
Yeah.
They sent
Psych.
the note
Yeah,
out, and
psych.
they were like, oh yeah, no. And then it was, how long did they deliberate? What was the final count on? It was days.
It was the fourth day. They had a couple hours on Friday, all day Monday, all day Tuesday, and then Wednesday around 2:00, you got called back to the courthouse, and that's when the jury had a verdict. And then they were like, "Psych!" But you knew then that they were close. Like you knew there was some box they were figuring out. Should we check this box? You knew that a verdict was coming any minute. Then I feel like did you guys-
and the questions were such that we had a real good feeling that they were going our way.
Yeah,
those were helpful. They took away a little bit of the stress.
I sat when those questions came out. I was in the hallway. Alan Jackson walked by, and I go, "Those questions sound pretty good, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, you think?" You think?
Yeah, that's Alan.
Yeah.
And throwing in that standalone OUI charge, or DUI, whatever they call it in Massachusetts, that was a game time decision, right? It didn't happen the first trial, and so that was a really smart thing to do.
Yeah, although I can't remember if I've told you guys this before, but there was a juror. You know how like you're trying a case and you can spot some jurors that you're pretty confident are for you, and then you see others who you think are against you, and you can't help the hatred that wells in your heart for those jurors that you think are going to screw you, right? And so there was this one guy who,
on the second trial or first trial?
On the second trial, who I thought, he's government all down the way. We shouldn't have kept him on. We made a mistake. He's probably the one that's holding the jury up.
Oh, he was one of the 12 that was picked.
Oh, yeah. He deliberated. About maybe, I don't know, 2-3 days after the verdict, I get a call from a guy. I didn't recognize the name. He said he was a juror and he'd like to come in and chat with me. Now, I can't reach out for jurors after a trial, but I can receive information. And so I was happy to meet with him. I didn't ask him anything that went on in there, but he volunteered that, yes, he was the holdout because he wanted to acquit her of OUI too.
Oh, wow.
So he was not only on our side, he was like super on our side. And, I told him, I said, look, we appreciate it, but if we had had any say, we would have told you, just go with the OUI. We're good.
Was it the smirker?
I'm not going to say who it was.
It was the smirker. It's got to be the smirker.
I'm not going to say who it was.
I love that guy, by the way. Yeah, the guy.
And that's what took so long. Maybe that's what took 4 days, because he was trying to convince them all, don't acquit her of everything. What are you, crazy? They have no evidence. That blood alcohol content extrapolation was bullshit. It's not done that way. Wow.
Because
I really fought. He fought for you. You never know.
That story is consistent with. I talked to juror number 4, Jason, that went on TMZ, and he told me that there was a guy that was like gung-ho on not guilty with the OUI.
Yeah.
And so
we read him completely wrong. So to Melanie's point, you don't know what the hell you're doing with jury selection. We had consultants. We did the best we could. I think we wound up picking a great jury the second time.
You had consultants? Was that Victoria George? Did she count as the consultant? Wow, I didn't know that.
We had people helping us. I'll say that.
Okay.
He's got a guy. Everybody's got a guy. You got to get a guy for your pool, by the way, Aiden.
Sounds expensive. I fixed it. I shocked it. We're good. I can see the bottom now. We're good. But
there's this new invention. It's called YouTube, and you can look up videos on how to do anything. In fact, there's a really good pool guy on YouTube. So I'll send you his contact information.
Okay, I appreciate that. Let me ask you something, David, about a guy by the name of Steve Scanlon. Okay.
Yeah.
So this, to me, he's one of the most important guys in all this. So but a lot of people are confused about the lore of Steve Scanlon. How did he first get in touch with you, and what did you guys talk about?
So, by the way, I'll preface this by saying in November of 2023, I marshaled all my notes and my fresh memory at that time and detailed the conversations and the contact that I had with Steve Scanlon. So I don't want to talk as much off the cuff in terms of dates and times and precisely what he said. But the gist of the story is that I had just come back to my home office where I'm sitting right now, actually, after the arraignment when Karen was released on $50,000 cash bail, big media presence outside. But I'm like, all right, well, now I can take a breath and figure out what this case is going to be about. And my paralegal messages me and said that a guy named Mike has information about the Karen Reed case and he wants to only talk to me. And so I called him back, and Steve Scanlon has a gravelly voice, like distinctive voice. And he said that the injuries don't match up. He wasn't hit by a car. You got to look at the people in the house. Brian Albert and his nephew are involved in this. And I can't remember if it was that conversation or the next one, but he mentioned like an ATF agent as well. Like he had information that led me. And by the way, I said, look, Mike, what's your last name? I want to talk to you. He said, Lynch. And then, by the end, I was like, can we meet? And he goes, well, Dave, my name's not Mike Lynch. I gave you a fake name. I don't want to really get involved. And I was like, all right, well, and at this point, it's like, all right, he's given us information. It's not actionable. There's nothing we can do. Although it made me very interested to talk to Brian Albert and finding out who his nephew was, which, again, is part of the reason why we wanted the press involved here, because the DA's office had not really interviewed these people. As you later found out, they kind of brought them all together and let them all talk. So Scanlon, or Mike, disappeared for a period of time. The only reason he resurfaced, he didn't call me. I called him, because after that day, I got I don't know if it was Facebook or LinkedIn, I got a request from Steve Scanlon, who wanted to act as an investigator. I think that he may have contacted Karen. I think that's true, but I can't remember completely. But we had found Lucky Loughran after a week or two. The prosecution had never talked to him. And I was like, this is golden. This is consistent with what that tipster said. There was no body on the lawn when there would have had to be if Karen had hit him. And so my investigator set up a meeting with Lucky Loughran at Canton to go along his route with me. And I showed up there on a Saturday or a Sunday. The lot was empty. And we waited. Lucky never showed up, and he never called, never texted, wasn't answering his texts. It was just like roadblock after roadblock. And I remember sitting with Paul Makowski and saying, this sucks. We have to somehow find a way to break through. And it just occurred to me that I'm going to take a chance to call Steve Scanlon back, because I never responded to his inquiry about being an investigator, because I thought he might have been the Mike. And I called him back, and he said, Dave, this isn't the first time we've talked. And I got chills. Wow. And he admitted that he was Mike. Wow. And then ultimately, we had him in the office. He got cold feet. But he definitely redirected the course of the case. He played a role, even though he ultimately wouldn't stand up and ultimately say what he had told me. But, everything that I've said in court, out of court about Scanlon is 100% true. And I know he's been deposed, and I am very much hoping that his deposition's released. I want to hear if, under oath, he's contradicted anything that I've said. So to the extent that anybody has any inkling to release that, I call for the release of that.
Yeah, it's because I always said this with him, because he's, he told you, first of all, a couple things. He said nephew and ATF agent. So he didn't say Colin or Brian Higgins.
No, he didn't say the name Colin. I think in one hearing I said Brian Albert and Colin Albert. That didn't come from Steve Scanlon. That was my inference, because I didn't know who Brian Albert's nephew was. But I later found out. But
for him to say ATF agent, that's specific information. That how would he know that? How would he know Brian Higgins was there, which adds legitimacy to the things that are saying. And when I talked to Scanlon, he was very evasive. He kissed my ass a little bit, but he seemed like he wanted to get involved, but not too involved. And, he's like, you're in the right direction, keep going, and all this stuff. But I asked him, and he had no answer for this. I go, why did you go to them if you didn't think something was up? He goes, it was just a hunch. He goes, the injuries didn't add up. I go, hold on. How did you know what the injuries were on February 2nd, 2022 when you called them? Because the autopsy photos weren't out. You hadn't seen the autopsy photos then, had you?
No. Oh God, no.
So how could he know what the injuries were on February 2nd, 2022?
Yeah, I mean, you're making my point. It was like things were not adding up at an early juncture in this case. The spotlight that you ultimately shone on this case was crucial.
Yeah.
But Aiden, that's why I'm here today.
Thank you.
That's why I'm here. I'm here because at a point in time when we needed help, you stepped up and provided that help. Not every crazy thing that you're doing out there do I say, well, geez, I'm with Aiden. I know my mother and sister are huge fans. And my mother says, sometimes I have to turn the sound down because I just can't.
My mom said that too. Yeah.
But I never forget somebody that's done me a solid. And you did us a major solid that changed the direction of the case. So
and reporting the truth.
I'll never
forget
the
truth. Well, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. I'll never forget it. Never forget.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is supposed to be my hostage video, right? I'm supposed to have like a blindfold on, and you're supposed to have a gun to my neck. I'm going to release text messages. I could really care less about any of that stuff. I am not ashamed or embarrassed about anything. I mean, I'd prefer that maybe some of the colorful language that I said in private remained private so that, the kids weren't exposed to it. But this was, in my view, you were invested in the truth, like Melanie was invested in the truth, like we were invested in the truth, and we were all rowing in the same direction just to uncover the truth.
Yeah.
It's true. And we all were. There was nothing nefarious about what any of us were doing. And it's not just about Karen Reed. It's about John O'Keefe. Okay. John O'Keefe was a human being who I'd never met before, who was left in the cold to die, and who deserves answers. He deserves a thorough investigation. He didn't get that. He was treated like a vagrant found on the street would get a more thorough investigation than John O'Keefe got. And it's outrageous. And like I said, Colin Albert wasn't even interviewed by the police until 18 months afterwards, and only in regards to witness intimidation. They just wanted to talk to him about me, not what happened that night, And
what's interesting is that his name was never in any report. We were turned on to the nephew by Scanlon, and then had information that Colin and John had a beef, and it was kind of like it was all fitting together. And I sent a letter to Lally telling him that he should put Brian Albert and Brian Higgins and Colin Albert in the grand jury. And he told me, look, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, I'm definitely putting them in. But why would I put in Colin Albert? He wasn't even there that night.
You told Lally this. You told Lally this.
In writing.
Wow.
In writing.
Wow.
Prior to indictment. Okay.
Wow.
His name was not in any report. And he asked me why, and I wouldn't tell him. I just said, you need to question him. And then, the indictments came down. We saw the transcripts. And for the first time, multiple people admitted that Colin was in the house that night. Yeah. That was the first time. And I wonder if that ever would have come out had Scanlon not come forward, had I not revealed that to Lally and made that request. And who knows?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. That's an interesting piece of information. It sounds like you contacted them. You told them about this because they could have kept hiding it even though nothing happened in the house, according to them. They really wanted hard to keep Colin out of that house, didn't they?
Well, Colin would have been kept out if Scanlon hadn't come forward, and if we didn't have the information that we had about a prior beef between the two of them. His name never, I don't think, we wouldn't have known to raise his name.
Yeah. In the second trial, you were supposed to get Brian Albert, right? You were going to interview him if they called him. Were you disappointed they didn't? Or
definitely. Are you kidding me? It was going to be the cross-examination of my life. The benefit that we had the second time was when the fourth attorney came in, and that fourth attorney was Bob Alessi. We had time to prepare every witness, and I had time to prepare all of my witnesses in a way that I've never prepared in my whole life. I met with Lucky Lawford probably 4 times. Katrina,
you were harassing
Karina Kolakithis.
Karina Kolakithis, yeah. I met with her several times. I had marshaled every word uttered by Brian Albert ever, and had it all cataloged and organized, and had researched his dog even further. I mean, I'm not going to go into what I had in store for him, because there's still an ongoing case, and I don't want to prejudice Karen's civil case. I don't want to go into details, but it was going to be such a fun cross-examination for me. So yeah, no, I was disappointed that I didn't get to do it, but at the end of the day, the only thing that mattered was the result. I have zero regrets about anything that has gone on.
I mean, how fascinating is this, Melanie? What we're learning right now.
We have learned so much. My head is exploding. My head is exploding
crazy
right now.
Yeah.
If you had never reached out to Adam Lally to tell him about Colin, I'll bet you that Colin's name never would have come up in any grand jury testimony.
I think you're right.
Ever.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
They would have thought they were out of the woods on that. And that's wild.
Yeah. I'm going to bring on someone else to join us just for a little bit here. You guys might know him.
If Jesus is not Lord of your entire life, he's not Lord of any part of your life, because Jesus will never come into your heart a second place. But you know what God started doing, Arden? He started exposing the idols in my heart. I didn't know there was idols, but he started exposing it. The very first idol he exposed was, we got a church that right now isn't convicted by the fact that I can jump in bed with the world. Preachers of old, if you look at Spurgeon and you looked at Wesley and you looked at Whitefield, they confronted the church and said, hey, we are called to be separate. But Jezebel comes along and goes, oh, it's all beautiful. It's all lovely. Today, we're not saying things about this. And let's face it, in order to become like Jesus, one of us is going to have to change. And I got news for you. It's not Jesus. We're keeping people happy. But are they going off a cliff? Are they going to hear the master one day say to them, I don't know who you are? So here's this woman that calls herself a prophet. She appointed herself. Obviously, she's got influence. So there must be something on her life that gives her that influence. My gift, your gift, anybody's gift that God puts on our life, it works. It's irrevocable. And so my gift can work whether I'm under obedience to God or whether I'm not. Example, doesn't Jesus say a multitude are going to come to him and say, Lord, we cast out devils in your name. We did miracles in your name. Well, think about it. There were people that received miracles from these people who practiced lawlessness while they were ministering. She's obviously got a gift on her life, but she's self-appointed. And when she's self-appointed, now she's getting into error. And what is she doing? She's leading people astray. How is she leading them astray? I guarantee you, she is not looking at the people in this church and going, oh, just commit sexual immorality, just offer things to idols and worship idols. They never would have tolerated in that church. She's doing it in a very seductive way. She's coming along with the fact saying, you know, grace, we are human beings. We have weaknesses. We have challenges. Salvation didn't really change us. We're just sinners saved by grace. So you know what? Don't be concerned. Now, what she's doing is seducing them. She's drawing them over to go, hey, I can actually be involved in idolatry. Now, let's talk about idolatry for a second, okay? What is idolatry? Idolatry, if you look at it in the Old Testament, they would build statues, they would build these monuments, and they would say they were gods, and they would bow down and worship. But who created the God? It was the person. So the person knows there is deity because God puts eternity in their heart. So they create a God who will give them what their flesh desires. In other words, if I want to have great sex with anybody I meet, my God that I build, let's say it's an asterisk pole, because that won't emphasize illicit sex. I can make that God, and that God can tell me, hey, go out and have sex with who you want. Okay, so in essence, we are the ones that make it an idol. We give power to an idol. An idol is anything we give our strength to or draw our strength from. It is anything that we put before Jesus. Idolatry in the Old Testament might have been statues. In the New Testament, Paul said covetousness is idolatry. Why is covetousness idolatry? Because we love the things of this world more than we love Jesus. Okay, so an idol is anything I love, like, or trust more than I love, like, or trust Jesus. Now, I want to bring you back to when I first got saved. I'll never, ever, ever forget this as long as I live. I had left engineering. I had been working for my church for 4 years, and I went to the Philippines. And I'm going there to minister. And the guy I'm going there with, he stands up on the first night and he preaches on the lordship of Jesus. And he said, the word Lord appears over 7,000 times in the Bible, the word Savior 36. He said, if Jesus is not Lord of your entire life, he's not Lord of any part of your life. He said, because Jesus will never come into your heart a second place. Lepers, Judas is in hell. And I started trembling. I came back home and I put a chair in the middle of the room. The room had nothing in it. It was like a meeting room that was empty. And I walked around that chair for 2 hours. And I said, that's the throne of my heart. And I'm not leaving this room until I know you're seated on that throne and nothing or no one else. 2 hours into it, I collapsed and I literally wept for 30 minutes. I couldn't stop weeping. I got up and I walked out of that room a changed man. But you know what God started doing? He started exposing the idols in my heart. I didn't know there was idols, but he started exposing them. The very first idol he exposed was golf. Okay? I would get up in Dallas, Texas. Golf courses, public golf courses were so popular. The only way you could get a tee time, you could make your tee time 3 days in advance, is you had to be the first one there. There were those of us who would get to the golf course at 4:30 in the morning, and we'd wait until 6 when the pro shop opened up to make our tee time for 3 days later.
Wow. Not to play that day. You'd get up at 4 a.m. to go just make a tee
time to play 3 days later. Okay, so now.
That's dedication.
I had a set of golf clubs stolen out of our garage. Now, you got to understand, your mom and I were making $18,000 a year. So we don't have anything extra, right? We don't have any money to buy golf clubs. When they get stolen out of my garage, the insurance company comes along and says, we'll buy you a new set. So I got a brand new set of clubs. 1 week later, I'm in church and the Holy Spirit says, I want you to give your golf clubs to Pastor Matt. It took me 4 days. 4 days. I'm like, 4 days. I'm like, if I give these golf clubs away, Lisa will never let me buy another set of golf clubs. I knew if I give these golf clubs away, I'm not playing golf anymore. And I remember 4 days later, I thought, you know what? I remembered that prayer, called up Pastor Matt. I said, can I come over to your house? I give him this brand new set of clubs and the bag, everything. And he's like, oh my gosh. He was so excited, right? 2 years later, no, 18 months later, I'm at church at the parking lot, and a guy who used to play on the mini tour said, God told me to give all my golf clubs to you. So he throws in my trunk like $3,000 worth of golf equipment. And I remember putting in my garage thinking, I'm done with golf. So then about a month later, a pastor came to me and said, God told me to give you my golf clubs. So he puts his set of golf clubs in my trunk. So now I'm sitting there looking at 2 sets of golf clubs in my garage. So one day I was out praying. I said, God, what do I do with this? He said, son, go play golf. He said, it's not an idol to you anymore. He said, it's recreation to you now. And I look at golf now and millions of dollars have come into the ministry for missions because of golf, right? You know what else was an idol in my life? Food. I loved eating. I would eat even when I wasn't hungry because I loved eating. So one day, I'll never forget this as long as I live. I had a favorite cereal. I think it was muesli or something like that. I'm getting ready to pour this kashi muesli, whatever it was. And the Holy Spirit said, son, I want you to fast today. And I remember going, I got a busy, Lord, I'll fast 3 days next week. And I poured the cereal and ate it. And God showed me, you couldn't obey me because it's an idol. And I remember I was like, oh my goodness. And he dealt with that one. And you know what the third one was? I was a big Dallas Cowboys fan. Man.
I have no idea why.
I have no idea. I have no idea now why. I would come home from church. We used to wear suits. My suit would come off. My tie would come off. And I am putting that Cowboy game on. And baby, we are eating dinner at halftime or after the game. But we are not eating dinner during this game. If Addison's diaper needed changing, I am not available.
I feel like I'm getting convicted.
So I remember this one particular day, it was a big game. The Cowboys were playing the Eagles. And the winner was going to the playoffs and the loser was staying home. It was in the fourth quarter. And the quarterback back in those days was a guy named Danny White. He was renowned for driving the ball down the field in the fourth quarter and just winning the game in the last moment. He was like one of those guys. This is before Tom Brady ever came along. I mean, we're talking 80s right now, okay? So there's 8 minutes left in the game. 8 minutes left. Cowboys are down by 4 points. Danny's got the ball. He's driving the Cowboys down the field. I am on my feet, like I am pacing. I'm going nuts. He's going to drive down. They're going to score a touchdown. They're going to win. They're going to the playoffs. And all of a sudden, the urge came on me to pray. You know, like that burden, pray, something's wrong. Now, Lisa's not around. So I go, Lord, there's only 8 minutes left. I'll pray when the game's over. And the burden got stronger. And I remember they keep driving. He keeps making first downs. And I'm like, okay, God, I'll pray 5 hours when this game's over. 5 hours. I will literally go to my office and I'll pray for 5 hours. He keeps going, right? I watched the rest of the game. And they won the game. They did win the game. I go up to my study. And I close the door, and I'm ready to pray 5 hours because I meant it. And the burden's totally gone. And I mean, I have no burden to pray at all. And I said, I dropped my face into the carpet. I'll never forget this. I said, God, if anybody would have said to me, who's more important to you, the Dallas Cowboys or Jesus? I would have said, Jesus is my Lord. I said, I've just proven. You wanted me to pray, and I chose to watch the rest of this game. And you know what he said to me? He said, I don't want your 5 hours of sacrifice. I want obedience. And all of a sudden I realized the Cowboys were out of place. Now, do I watch football games today? Yeah, you and I watch it. I love watching a football game with you. But you know what? I'm constantly keeping it in check. Is this out of place? I'm asking myself, what do I do if somebody comes to my door in need right now? What do I do if God puts it in my heart to pray during this game right now? I've learned nothing is more important. I mean, I enjoy the game of golf, but the game of golf isn't what it used to be. I enjoy pickleball, but it's not, it never really was an idol. I look at these things now as recreation, refreshment. So what may be an idol to you is not necessarily an idol to me, because we're the ones that make it an idol.